Hey guys, Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame. I love me some horror games. I love the Sega Genesis. So in today's video, let's take a look at all of my horror-themed Sega Genesis games. So, we poor Genesis owners, we got a lot of great games and a lot of great exclusives, but for some reason we only ever got one Castlevania game. Luckily, it's a banger with Castlevania Bloodlines. This game is fan-friggin-tastic. You get two different characters, you get an absolutely beautiful soundtrack for the Sega Genesis, really good control in the fact that like John Morris is more traditional, where Eric Lacard is a lot more free-moving, not quite like Simon in Castlevania 4, but kind of close enough. He's considered easy mode for a reason, but both players lead to like different paths that you can take, different strategies for fighting bosses and enemies, and yeah, it's just like a really, really deep game. And plus the fact that visually it's stunning, and it throws in a lot of cool graphical tricks into there. The music's fantastic. There's just so much to love. And it's a shame that until recently, this was just always overshadowed by Super 4, when on its own, its world's different, but it's so good for what it is. So depending on when this video comes out, we're either going to have a full review in the description below, or it'll be coming out soon. But it's Alien 3. So yeah, this is one of those games where they threw in a timer, and I think the timer ruins the game. So the basic premise is you go from level to level. In a certain amount of time, you have to save all the people that are hostages, stuck in those larva traps, because if the time runs out, the chest bursters come out of them and you lose the level. And it is cool that they show you where the people you missed were, but even by level 2, the timer is so exact. Like, this is not a noob-friendly game. Like, it's not based on skill. It's one that's just really based on memorization and learning the levels, because there's so many times where, like, the xenomorphs just run at you so fast that, like, you're guaranteed to take a hit. So if the timer doesn't screw you, the enemies in the game that you don't see coming will, so it just takes so much of just knowing where everything is. And I don't think that makes for a particularly great game, but it's still not bad. Like, if you can find it for 10 bucks or less, I guess it's okay, but I'm not a particular fan of this one. This one disappointed a lot of people back in the day when they rented it. It's Chikan the Forever Man. So, yeah, this is, like, just look at that box art. It's so cool. And the concept of being, like, an unkillable guy going around, like, it's cool. Trying to get these special items and save Dark. Like, there's a lot of story to it. And the thing is, it's just not that great of a game. Like, it's really cool the fact that, like, you can combine different potions for different spells to, like, increase your power or to, like, save your life, make you invincible, jump higher, move faster, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so many options in the gameplay itself for what you can do, but the level design is just so bad. And the control is way stiffer than it has any right to be. Like, it's a game that wants so badly to be good, but it just misses the mark. And, like, I never have the patience to spend more than, like, an hour with it. And even getting the gameplay footage for this, I was like, ugh, no. So, yeah, I mean, unless you find it for super cheap, I would say stay away. It's not that good. Alright, so if you watched my NES collection video, you know that I hated the predecessor to this, but I love me some Ghouls and Ghosts. Like, take everything that was wrong with Ghosts and Goblins and just tweak it and fix it, and you get Ghouls and Ghosts. Like, it's a beautiful game, it's an awesome conversion of the arcade original, and it looks great, it sounds great, it controls great. Being able to shoot up just makes a world of difference. And just the overall layout of the game itself is just so much more fair. It's still not easy, and I'm still very bad at it, but at least it feels like I'm not dying to complete BS. I'm just dying to me not being good at it. So, like, Super is also awesome. It's really hard, and I don't own it, unfortunately. But, yeah, and it has a double jump. But I just like this one a little bit more. So, yeah, if there's a Ghouls game that you want to get to, or an end Ghosts of that thing, just go for this one here. Ah, man, do I miss when sports games didn't take themselves as seriously, and you don't get that much better than with Mutant League Football. So, take the Madden 03 or 03, take the Madden 93 engine, slap some gore on it, slap some really brutal violence into the game, make the players kill each other, set traps without the levels, have players smack talk each other after plays or killing each other, and you just get a really fun time. Now, if you're not a fan of Genesis era sports games, this probably won't convert you because it is basically just a souped up port. But man, this game is just so much fun. I just really wish there was more noise during the actual gameplay, but that was a problem with a lot of these games back then. But for what it is, even if you don't like traditional sports games, this is definitely one to check out. And if we're talking about Mutant League Football, that means we gotta talk about Mutant League Hockey. So, this was the follow up, and in a weird way, it almost seems like rushed ish. Like, I remember as a kid loving this game more than football just because I like hockey more in general. And I do like it as a game to play more. It's a lot quicker. The deaths can be just as brutal. You get fights in it like you do in hockey, even though they're kind of inconsequential. But yeah, just the overall presentation and the amount of content seems to be lacking when compared to Mutant League Football. It's weird. But as a game itself goes, like, if you love hockey games and you love NHL 94, for example, you'll love this game. But yeah, it's just weirdly plain-ish. But again, if you did like all the violence and gore from Mutant League Football, you slap some hockey on it, that's what you get here, so you're guaranteed a good time. Alright, so this next one I'm going to keep short because I've actually never played it because my system to play it on has never worked. And that is Night Trap. So yes, the famous game, the one that started the ESRB rating system basically. Super controversial for how incredibly tame it is. So yeah, I know there's more recent versions of it that's out there for like the Switch and PS4. I just don't care about it. Like, I know what it is. I don't care enough about it to play it. But it's one of those ones that I saw at a thrift store and I went, what the hey, I'm going to buy it, even if it was kind of pricey at the time. So, yeah, since I never played it, I'm going to borrow some footage here from World of Long Plays. So, here's their showing of it. Enjoy. Alright, so I gotta apologize for the look of this box, but this is how I've always had this game. Predator 2. Oh man, you can't really... Hold on. Predator 2. So this is actually like a shockingly good licensed game. It's a run and gun. The main objective is you run around trying to find all the hostages before the Predator kills them all, and basically go through the levels to have a battle with Predator at the end of the game. It's, you know, based loosely off of the movie, which isn't great, but yeah, I would play this before watching the movie again. So yeah, as a licensed game, surprisingly good, and way better than Alien 3, which was getting a lot of push at the time. Ugh. So the Sega Genesis may be lacking in some games like, you know, RPGs, but who cares about that? Because you know why? It's where you got Splatterhouse too. So this is the follow-up to the original game, and it's really, really, really good. Like, the graphics are a step up. The control is pretty much similar to the original, but it feels slightly tweaked and a little bit more refined. It's a tough game. This is a tough game. This is one of those ones, though, that, like, if you basically know where to stand in every screen, you can breeze through the game. So it's almost more of memorization than actually, like, skill-based at the end of the day. But it will challenge you to get to that point. So certainly not a cakewalk, but it's still a fun time. And I still say Splatterhouse is definitely more than just style over substance. And if we're going to talk about Splatterhouse 2, we might as well talk about Splatterhouse 3. So, yeah, this one really changed it up. Like, you have almost like missions now, where you have to try and get to the end room and beat the boss in time to save either your wife or your son, stuff like that. So, the timer in this game really adds a sense of dread, more so than just even the gruesome monsters and everything like that, because, you know, there's a really fleshed out story this time too, and how you do with saving people can affect the story, give you one of 4 different endings that, let's face it, until you really learn the game, you're just gonna be seeing nothing but bad endings. And it's not perfect though. Like, the difficulty in this game is crazy. Like, by like the 2nd or 3rd level, there's a ton of monsters that could basically two-shot you and kill you. And there's a lot of ways where, like, you really need the weapons to make your life easier and to blow through the rooms quicker. But if you get hit one time, the weapon gets taken away, which is really annoying. But the flip side of that is the actual beat-em-up based combat has never felt better. So there's a lot of, like, good and bad here. For a lot of people, it's their favorite in the series. For a lot, it's their least favorite. Me, I think it's got a lot of pros, but that timer, man, I get what they were doing with it, but I still just hate that it's there. But yeah, it's another one where if you can get your hands on it, you should definitely get at least one playthrough of Splatterhouse 3 just to see how different it is from all the others. Alright, so the next game up is actually a really recent release for the Sega Genesis, and that is Xeno Crisis. So yeah, this is one that I was part of the Kickstarter for. Brand new Sega Genesis game, run and gun, you know, twin stick style. Sign me up. And, you know, Xeno in the name, or Xeno, however you want to say it. Xenomorphs from Alien, you get the idea. You fight big gruesome monsters, going from level to level, trying to save people, and just trying to survive. This game is so hard. And you know, this game really pushes the Genesis to its limits. My biggest problem with it is the 6-button control still isn't the best layout for a game like this. Like, I really, really wish that it had, like, the dual arcade stick option that, dual controller, which means dual arcade stick action, that Super Smash TV has. So we don't have that here, which is really disappointing, because I think that would have made this a lot better, at least to play on the Sega Genesis. But it's been ported to like everything at this point now, so if you can play it on something with either a diamond layout for the control or a twin stick, go for that instead. But I am still happy to have this in my collection. Alright, how can you talk about horror games on the Sega Genesis from the 16-bit era without talking about Zombies Ate My Neighbors? So, yep, even has my old little name label on there still. And this game this was my childhood. Like, this is the game that I would play so many times with my best friend back when I was a kid. We would sit down and spend a whole summer trying to beat it, and we never could. To this day, I've never beaten it from start to finish. Luckily, it's pretty generous with the passcodes, but yeah, it gets tough. And honestly, the later levels, they're okay. I would say that like it's kind of a front-loaded game. Like the first half is really, really good, and the last half you're kind of like, I've done this. But the music's great. The love letter to all the different monsters of old is here. And it doesn't take itself seriously either. Like there's just so much to like about it. Please just play it with a 6-button controller, because with the 3-button controller and not being able to cycle through your weapons and items makes it a nightmare. But with the 6-button controller, it's where it's at. No matter what way you can play Zombies Ate My Neighbors, it's a fun time. Hey! I forgot to record this one the first time, so different setup. But next up is going to be the Cap Attack, a very early platformer for the system by Vic Tokai, but this game is great, man. Like, the graphics are awesome, the music is phenomenal, and the control has that weird balance of, like, slippery platforming, but not too slippery, and it's still tight enough. Like, it's a very creative game. I love the big sprites for the enemies, especially the bosses. There's just so much character and fun to the game. It does a good job of being, like, horror themed, but also not taking itself too seriously. I mean, you're a mummy that throws a skull as a weapon, so your guts are like your attack. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those ones that as a kid I could never fully beat, and I think this might be the year I finally try and sit down and beat the whole thing, because it's got its levels where you really need to know what you're doing, especially like the force scrolling level. Ugh. But yeah, it's just a really fun, cute, and just like charming platformer in general. So, I mean, not scary at all, but the horror themes are definitely there. Alright, so rounding out this video, we're going to take a look at my only 32X game that has horror in it, and that is going to be Doom. It's Doom. It's a classic. And this port here is one that a lot of people grew up with. This was my childhood version of Doom. Is it a great version of Doom, though? Not really. It's got a lot of flaws. The control's really not that great. And the music is bad. But with all the missing content, with everything wrapped into this, it was still an awesome launch game for the 32X, and I'm always going to have nostalgia for it, even if it isn't that great. And if you want to see me talk about it a little bit more, check out my 32X collection video, where I went a little bit more into this one. So that'll do it for this video, guys. As always, if you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, comment with what games I'm missing. If you enjoyed this video, check out my collection from last week looking at NES and Super NES games, or Brian's whole slew of his horror game collection. And make sure to stay tuned for next week when I take a look at the PS1 and N64. Until next time, guys, cheers.